Hi everyone, it's Tides Changing here, and today I'm going to be doing a recap of my base game Sims 4 Let's Play, which did end about 9 months ago, and the reason why I'm doing a recap for it now is that, as some of you know, I am bringing this Let's Play back for a second season fairly soon, and since it was a 75-part series, I felt like it'd be good to just do a recap, so those of you who watch a series would be refreshed on what happened, and I also figured it would be good for anyone who didn't watch the original series or may have watched a part here and there who may want to join in on the second season. Basically, this Let's Play followed the lives of 8 childhood friends from the time they were young adults and on, and these friends were split into 4 different households, and I would rotate through them throughout the series, spending a few parts with each of them. The Sims were first introduced as they were gathered at a bar for their 5-year high school reunion. Olivia Hall and Bobby Fan were the original lovebirds of the Let's Play. The two of them began dating at the end of high school and remained together throughout college. At their college graduation, Bobby proposed to Olivia, and at this point they were planning on having their wedding very soon and had even bought their first home together. Olivia loves reading, is a klutz, and really enjoys the company of family. She also aspired to become a well-known writer, while Bobby is romantic, athletic, and a bro. And he hoped to someday have a large family. Moving along, on the right we have Taz Andrews. Her name is actually Tammy, but she's always been a whirlwind of energy, so her friends nicknamed her Taz. She's a bit eccentric and messy, but also very creative and hoped to someday hone her painting skill. The Sim Taz is talking to is named Lily Patel, and the two of them have always been best friends, and after graduating from college and moving back to Willow Creek, they decided to be roommates since neither of them could afford a place on their own. Unlike Taz, Lily is a neat freak, and she also loves the outdoors and is ambitious. She also aspired to learn as much about gardening as she could. Next we have Brian Rogers, who's just all around a really good guy. He's also a geek and a goofball, and due to his love of telling jokes and making people laugh, he wanted to someday become a comedian. Brian had also had a crush on Lily for as long as he could remember, but was afraid of telling her how he felt because he feared he would ruin the close friendship that they had. Brian also has a twin sister named Meredith, who he moved in with after graduating from college. Meredith is a Sim you currently see tending the bar. She's always been outgoing and cheerful, as well as a foodie, which led to her wanting to know all there is to know about mixology. Meredith and Brian have always been very close to each other, and she hung out with the group a lot in high school but stayed behind in Willow Creek while everyone else went off to college, causing her to drift away from them some. She also met her boyfriend Malcolm Matthews during that time, and the two of them recently moved in together. However, the two of them found it difficult to afford the place on their own, which is where Brian came in. The guy you see sitting at the bar in the red shirt is Malcolm. He's self-assured, afraid of commitment, and evil. He's also a criminal, which is something that he hid from Meredith, and no one in the group knew him that well or liked him at all, especially not Brian, who knew that someday Meredith would find out about the fact that he had been sleeping around and would be very hurt by it. There's one more Sim left to introduce, and his name is CJ Vaughn. CJ has always been a loner and more independent than everyone else in the group. He's also a genius and materialistic and hoped to someday become very wealthy. Rather than setting up roots and sticking around in Willow Creek like the rest of his friends, he decided to move to Oasis Springs, where he heard the opportunities to accomplish his goals were much better. Not much happened in the first 4 parts, apart from getting to know each of the households better and learning more about their backstories, and I'll include the more detailed backstories in the description in case any of you would like to read them. When we returned to Brian, Meredith, and Malcolm's house, Brian and Meredith threw a party, and Malcolm took out his frustrations on the guests while Meredith had her back turned, while Brian also made efforts to impress Lily. Not long after this occurred, Olivia and Bobby had a beautiful wedding, which most of their friends of course attended. And when we got back to CJ, he headed out to the gym where he somewhat got over his fear of strangers when he struck up a friendship with a Sim by the name of Skyla. Little did we know at the time what a huge part of his life she would become. Speaking of getting outside of comfort zones, Brian decided it was time to make some progress towards confessing his feelings for Lily and invited her to hang out one-on-one. After their outing, Brian made his feelings for Lily more obvious when he threw another cookout. Fortunately for him, she reciprocated his affection. Brian's recent behavior towards Lily made it quite obvious to her that he had feelings for her, and since she had a bit of a crush on him as well, she made the next move and asked him out on a date. There's some awkward moments, but overall, everything went really well. And after their first date, Lily found her feelings for him deepening and asked him out on a second date with the intention of beginning a relationship. Not long after this, Olivia and Bobby decided to take another step forward in their lives and have a kid, and shortly afterwards, their first son Kai was born. Getting back to CJ, he realized that he may be developing deeper feelings for Skyla, but wasn't sure if they were romantic feelings or those of close friendships, as it was very difficult for him to find people that he really connected with. His gut told him that they were romantic feelings, but relationships never worked out well for him, and seeing as he has a hard time making new friends and could really use one in Oasis Springs, he didn't want to risk ruining anything. In order to better understand his feelings, he came up with a silly plan to ask other women out to compare his feelings for them to his for Skyla. This is CJ, of course, so things don't work out very well. On a better note, with their relationship going really well, Brian feels it's time to propose to Lily and takes her to Sylvan Glade. And feeling bored, Malcolm decides to push his luck and Taz gives in to her impulses, resulting in the two of them having a fling. After seeing Taz come into the house with Malcolm the previous night, Lily tells her that she needs to do the right thing and tell Meredith what happened. She invites Meredith over and tells her the truth, and Meredith is understandably upset, but some time passes before we find out what happens with her relationship with Malcolm. Shortly after this, Lily asks Brian to move in with her, and the two of them get married. Next, Olivia and Bobby decide to grow their family, and Olivia gave birth to two twin boys named Caden and Kyle. Then CJ realized that his whole data collection idea was really just a silly distraction so he wouldn't have to face his feelings for Skyla. He thinks that maybe the risk is worth it and slowly begins pursuing a relationship with her. A while after the fling between Malcolm and Taz, Meredith and Malcolm were still together. Meredith was in denial that Malcolm cheated on her, and she wasn't ready to admit that the long-term relationship she was in hadn't been what she thought it was and didn't want to let go. Malcolm stuck around because he didn't make much money and it was difficult to find someone who was willing to support him for years like Meredith did. This left them in a complicated relationship that was further complicated by a surprise that Meredith got. Her unexpected pregnancy caused her to finally take off her rose-tinted glasses and see things for what they really were. She realized that it's true that Malcolm cheated on her numerous times and that he was actually a criminal, not a businessman like he told her he was. She decided that he wasn't the kind of person she wanted to raise a child around and planned to be a single mother. She finally ended their relationship, but allowed Malcolm to stick around a little longer so he could save up for a new place. Although she did have one condition, that he not bring anyone over to the house since she didn't trust anyone that he hung around with. Shortly afterwards, Meredith gave birth to a baby girl named Judith, and then Malcolm broke the condition that Meredith gave him and brought another woman home, leading to Meredith kicking him out. Moving on to a happier situation, Brian and Lily went on a romantic vacation to Granite Falls and decided that it was time for them to start a family. Not long after that, they welcomed their first child, Ryan. And now that more of their friends had children, Bobby and Olivia had a play date in hopes that all their children could become friends. They also decided that they wanted an even bigger family and adopted a baby girl named Cammie, and Kai also aged up into a teen. Moving on, after Lily and Brian got married, Taz moved out of their house and found out that Skyla, who she'd become friends with, was in need of a roommate. The two of them struggled to pay the bills together, but fortunately, Meredith was looking for a fresh start after breaking up with Malcolm. The girls threw a housewarming party, and with the breakup with Malcolm fresh, Meredith was looking for some romance in her life. She pursued CJ at this party, not knowing that there was something between him and Skyla. She could tell in the past that he had a crush on her and had hoped that those feelings were still there. CJ felt a lot of guilt about this, but still had lingering feelings for Meredith and never thought that he would have the opportunity to be with her. Now that the opportunity had presented itself, he felt like he had to give it a shot. He really cared for Skyla, but things between them had been progressing very slowly and neither of them had been very open about how they felt about each other. Meredith and CJ quickly became an official couple, and after hiding their relationship for a little while, CJ threw a dinner party at Meredith's urging to reveal their relationship to the rest of their friends. Skyla was understandably upset after she saw the two of them together, and seeing her reaction made CJ realize how much she cared about him, and that getting together with Meredith was a huge mistake. The two broke up shortly afterwards, and CJ made an effort to talk to Skyla, but she refused to pick up his calls. He went to the gym hoping to bump into her, and fortunately he did. After some conversation, she finally opened up to him and things seemed to be back to normal. Lily and Brian decide they want another kid and have a girl named Kala. Meanwhile, Ryan spends some time with the other kids, and Lily and Brian throw a weenie roast to gather all their friends together. While visiting other households, it was noticed that Olivia and Bobby were arguing. It turns out that having 4 kids had taken a toll on their relationship and that things weren't as perfect as they seemed. They realized that their relationship wasn't nearly as strong as it used to be, so they took a romantic vacation to reconnect. However, Bobby gave another woman a compliment which Olivia took as flirting, resulting in this trip doing more harm than good. Things aren't all bad for this family though, as the twins aged up and Kai got his first girlfriend. Cammie and Kala also bonded over being the youngest in the bunch. Taz never made romantic relationships much of a priority throughout her life. She's always had a passion for art and wanted to focus as much time as she could on bettering herself as an artist. However, now that she has become quite accomplished as an artist, she decides that maybe it's time to find someone to settle down with. She goes on a few failed dates, but then a new neighbor named Amara stopped by, and the two of them clicked. As for the other Sims, Judith aged up into a teenager, and we find that CJ and Skyla are finally an official couple. Now that the two of them are together, Skyla knows that she wants to spend the rest of her life with him and doesn't want to wait around for him to propose, so she decides to do it herself. After their engagement, CJ and Skyla move in together and throw a party for the occasion. Shortly afterwards, Skyla made the surprising discovery that she was pregnant. CJ and Skyla had planned on getting married soon, getting a larger house eventually, and maybe someday having kids, although that wasn't a thing they were sure they really wanted. However, when their twin boys Spencer and Lucas arrived, they couldn't have been happier. Then Lily, Brian, and their kids moved into a new home together and threw a pool party to take advantage of the new pool they had. Shortly after this, Lily and Brian went out on a date for the first time in a while and showed that they still were very much in love with each other, and Brian also aged up into a teen. Unlike Lily and Brian, Olivia and Bobby were still arguing all the time, particularly about how to raise their children, with Bobby having a more relaxed approach to parenting and Olivia having a stricter one. Kai also went out on a date with his girlfriend Kaylee and came back from it a little too late. Unfortunately, his parents were up waiting for him when he got home. Kaylee keeping Kai out so late made Olivia think that maybe she wasn't that good of an influence on Kai. Since Olivia and Bobby had never really met her, Kai suggested that they invite her over for dinner so that Olivia could actually get to know her first before judging her. Bobby of course sided with Kai and Olivia agreed. That evening, Caden and Cammy headed down the street to hang out at the Patel Rogers household, since Caden and Ryan had gotten closer and Cammy and Calla were best friends. Since Caden had begun hanging out with Ryan more, he had developed a crush on him. At this point though, he's afraid to act on his feelings for fear of rejection, and then the next day Kaylee finally stopped by for dinner. Olivia found that she actually really liked Kaylee, however, she overstepped her boundaries by questioning Kaylee about her thoughts on Kai, and her future with him, which understandably made Kaylee uncomfortable. Bobby witnessed this conversation and was upset with Olivia because of it, especially since Kai came home from school in tears the next day because Kaylee had broken up with him. She told him it was because she felt they didn't want the same things for their relationship and that she couldn't see it working out. Kyle, who was also present for Olivia and Kaylee's discussion, told Kai what he had heard. After finding out that Olivia had caused the breakup, Kai was furious with her, further driving a wedge in this family. But on a better note, Cammy aged up into a teen. Next, we found out that Judith had been skipping school some days to spend time with her father, and we followed her on one of those days as he took her to get her first tattoo, and then took her to a bar where Judith got into a little bit of mischief. The next evening, a new club was opening in Newcrest, and Judith planned to sneak out there with her friends since she knew her mom would be on a date all night. Unfortunately, it turned out her mom had the same idea, and she wasn't very happy to see Judith at the club. Not wanting to go home and deal with her mother, Judith ran off and asked her father if she could crash at his place. Back at the house, Taz opened up her own art gallery, a dream she had had for some time. Her successful first day of business made her think more about her future than she had before, and in that future she saw Amara beside her. She decided to propose to Amara and see if she felt the same way. Things were much calmer back at the Sewell-Vaughn household, where CJ, Skyla, and the twins moved into a new home in Newcrest and explored what there was to do in the neighborhood. They also got to know some of their new neighbors better. As we neared the end of the Let's Play and said farewell to the Patel Rogers family, Lily finally grew a cowplant, which was something she had been working on for a long time. We also found out that Ryan had a crush on Caden as well, and he got up the courage to tell Caden exactly how he felt. Also, Calla finally aged up into a teen. Unfortunately, the Fan family didn't have as happy an ending, as now that all of their kids were in high school, Olivia decided it was time to divorce Bobby. All the kids were deeply upset by this, and they coped in their own ways. Also, Kai became the first of the second generation to age up into a young adult. We also found out that Judith had been kicked out by Malcolm because he thought her stay would only be temporary, so we discovered she wanted to live there until she was able to support herself. He asked her to leave. As Judith was walking away from his house, debating whether to go crawling back to her mom or live on the streets, she bumped into Kyle as he was running away from his parents' house in the middle of the night after they got divorced. The two of them began talking, and Kyle told her that he knew the perfect place for the two of them to go. The two of them began crashing at Kyle's childhood home, which he had found out was abandoned at the time. Judith and Kyle had always butted heads when they were younger, but after opening up to each other about their situation, a mutual attraction developed. Judith decided to make a move, and after spending a careless night together, Judith discovered that she was pregnant. She was shocked to find out that Kyle was gone the morning after she had told him the news, and thinking he had abandoned her after finding out she was pregnant, she went back to her mother. Meredith of course made sure to scold Judith for what she had done, but she was so happy to see her, and Judith was shocked by how forgiving and understanding she was. We also found out that after her divorce with Bobby, Olivia had moved in with Meredith and Taz since they were the only ones with a free room. After finding out what had happened between Judith and Kyle, Olivia wanted to know where Kyle was. They went back to the old house in hopes of finding him there, and it turned out that Kyle had simply went for an early morning walk and wasn't abandoning Judith. And after getting a scolding from Olivia, Kyle returned back to Bobby's house. As for Taz and Amara, the two of them go out on a date and began talking about their upcoming wedding. They realize that they don't need to throw some flashy wedding to impress their friends and decide to get married then and there. After this, the series ended on a very happy note with CJ and Skyla's twins aging up into teenagers, and CJ and Skyla finally getting married after putting off their wedding for so long. That's it for the recap, and hopefully that was enough to get the gist of what happened in the series. I'm hoping to have the first part up sometime next month. I still do have quite a bit of preparation to do, because I did want to have it be like a couple years had passed since the last season ended and this one begins, and I've got a good idea of what all I want to have happened, but I just need to figure things out a little bit more with that. I also wanted to give all the Sims makeovers, but I'm not going to be putting up a makeover video because that would give away some of the things I want to keep a surprise for when the series comes back. I also wanted to make a few builds, and I will be putting speed builds up of those since I haven't had a speed build up in a while, and I'm sure that's something quite a few of you are wanting to see. And that's really about all the work that I need to do, but it will take some time. And a little bit about what I plan for the second season is that starting out, I'm going to be following pretty much the same households. Everyone will just be a little bit older. Although it's going to be 5 households starting out because I wanted to split up one of the households, and that's a household that has Taz, Amara, Judith, and Meredith and all of them in it. Just because it'd be too much to keep them all in the same house, and I don't think it's necessary to keep them all together. And then eventually I want to transition towards following the second generation as they move out of their parents' homes, so at that point I want to go back to 4 households like what I had in the first season. But while it's 5 households, what I'll probably do is instead of spending 3 parts with each household like I did in the first season, I'll probably just spend 2. And also, like what I did back when I uploaded the trailer for the first season, I wanted to have a poll to determine the order in which we're going to rotate through the households. So in the description, I'll have a poll with each of the households in it, and you can vote for whichever household you're most interested in seeing in the first part of the Let's Play. And then the household that gets the most votes will be the one that we see in the first part, and the household with the second most votes will be the one that we see in the second part, and so on. And the households I have are Lily, Brian, Calla, and Ryan. Then Skyla, CJ, Spencer, and Lucas. Then we have Bobby, Cammy, Caden, and Kai. Then there's Taz and Amara out on their own, and then lastly we have Meredith, Judith, Olivia, Kyle, and Judith and Kyle's children. So yeah, if there is a particular household you're most interested in seeing in the first part, then go ahead and vote for that household in the poll. That's about all I wanted to say in this video. I'm just really excited to be bringing the series back, and I hope that a lot of you are looking forward to it coming back as well. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and bye!